X1! Hello everybody, Reaper X1 here again, back in Terra 0.6. This is the monster I started in the main game there in my last few videos. Well, not being able to find some of the parts that I really wanted to use, such as Venture Shield and Repair Bubble and the Geocore Repair Bubble and the Saw Blades. Those are a big one. I really like them. I think that was about it for the missing parts that I can think of offhand. But like I said, I couldn't wait. And it was taking a long time searching for new parts, and I figured I gotta quench my urge to build. So I figured I'd just take this beast into the R&D and continue on from there. So right now I'm just topping up the front weaponry so it actually has somewhat of a chance against long range. Trying to keep this kind of a melee bot, as most tech kind of run into you anyway. Then you need the long range to lure them on in, so I figured best of both worlds would be ideal. And there's those saw blades I mentioned. I got big ideas for some of them. I don't know if it's a big idea, but I think I got a good idea on how to use them. Yeah, I don't know. Still loving how they flip around and get added so fast after you speed them up a wee bit. I think I kind of have the picture in my head for what I want this to look like now. Bottom will basically look like a run-of-the-mill, boxy, rectangular, whatever kind of tank base to it. But then I think the top is where I really want to maybe try and make it look different and be different. I had a couple ideas while I was thinking of ideas for this, and when I'm thinking of a tank, I get lots of kind of out there ideas sometimes, and picking the one I really like, it actually came pretty easy when I thought of it. Now it's just to kind of verify what I think the name should be, but I can only really do that when they're finished. So yeah, for anyone new to my videos, or even new to just this little sped up build a monster tutorial, this is me building a monster. Trying to explain the best I can some good ideas that good ideas I think I had and I use, and different ways to build around these bigger techs, and just in general really. All these tricks can basically be used anywhere, like flipping the tech. That's a good one for big stuff, and the bottom. The new feature for the build beam where you can look underneath is really nice, but the build beam causes a lot of lag in the game, so I tend not to use the build beam unless I absolutely have to. Even on small techs I find there's a noticeable difference for me, so I just try to avoid it. I gotten fairly good at building around it and not using it, and I use it more to get unstuck in places than to actually build, I think. Well, one key thing though is anything up front, just because you have a overwhelming number of guns on the very front outside, that doesn't mean they're always going to be there, so I kind of like to have them in layers. So as you can see, I made like a little roof there with Uzis and I think pip guns right there, the new Venture machine gun. Where did I use the other ones? Yeah, I'm kind of doing the voiceover afterwards, just because of the speeding up voice of mine would probably sound like either a bzzz or a really hyper chipmunk. So doing it afterwards kind of had to happen. But yeah, pretty much anything that you can arm at the front is probably a good idea. Very seldom have I ever said, oh, better leave that spot empty because that's a better use of the space. I'm talking about the front. and generally melee weapons are ideal. And as you may notice, my healing bubbles, well, I guess the little ones, those big ones, they cover pretty good. They only barely cover my part. Some of them don't even completely cover the entire part. That's where it gets kinda sticky, because as long as you cover enough of the part in a healing bubble, it will heal. But if you don't cover enough, it does nothing, even though the healing bubble is touching it. Or that's how it was the last time I actually took a real close look at that. Which has been a while. I kind of got the hang of it, and I just build with a little bit of grace either way. A little margin of error, if you will. That's why I like to overlap the edges, so it's not just each healing ball just barely touching. I like to have a good overlap, like if you could see that. So you stay at least a few blocks higher than anything is actually part of your tech at all times. So even at the lowest point where they meet. And how can you ever forget about the megatons? At first I was kind of thinking of maybe not loading up the front heavy with these, maybe going with more lasers and stuff like that. But then I remembered this is just the base of this. And honestly, I'm not 100% sure exactly how I'm gonna do the rest, but I got a few ideas, and one of them kind of includes this only being the front half of the base. And then there'd be a middle base that would connect the two, this with another one, so I'd have front and back one of these, a middle tech to connect them, and then the on top tech would be the turret. While these ones here, I could keep them this size, but as far as the top one, I think I'd have to max out the build limit just on the turret, just so it looked kinda right, like for length anyways. Which is still not out of the question. I've been kind of mulling that one over, deciding if I really want to go for that, but the idea that I am pretty fond of is the smaller guy, just on his own, but separate tech for the turret with AI, and hopefully it works good, so that it doesn't just always spin, it actually, like, you know, kind of acts right. But that, it's hard to test in the R&D, because a lot of the time the AI doesn't work the same in here as it does in the main game. So like with anything, even if you have armor, you kind of need a good base for things to go on. So these geocore blocks at the front are pretty much ideal. I don't know about armoring them yet, but I got a pattern idea that I'm gonna have to use armor for it. So I'll end up with a bit of armor here somehow. The whole thing being covered, I'm not too sure. I kinda like the looks of the covered in armor, but sometimes if you can't cover everything, those little bits that show through, they just don't look that great. Sometimes that's all I do build for, is a look, not a function. Like some of my contest builds that I've tried to win with. More of them are more just for looks. They still try to have a function, but it all depends on the mood I'm in and what determines what I'm going to build. Like when I thought of this, I was kind of in the mood for building a big old battle tech like I used to all the time, instead of just all these kind of aesthetically pleasing techs. Being away from this kind of a build for a very long time, it's kind of tricky just to jump right back into it. Just because I don't have to worry about the fine details as much, because it is like a boxy looking tank. But that being said, this could also be easily turned into a not so boxy tank, because it'll make a great base for many other big tanks with just by tearing the weapons off the outside layer. Really. I don't know if it'd be usable as in part of making something for like a Legion style tank, like insect like, or it'd be pretty big to do that. Yeah, that centerpiece though, that's pretty much where my turret's gonna be, elevated up above the base. Oh, sorry about that. Something stuck. I figure this way I'll have clearance for any parts that have to slide by each other while turning, maybe some weapons in between, so there's actually no unprotected or undefended area. Because there's one or two ways I can go with this. I can make it look cool and kind of pleasant on the eye, like simplistic I guess, more like a realistic tank. Or I could do a terror tech tank, which would just be absolutely covered in guns, just wild looking, over the top, overpowered, just crazily filled with guns kind of tech. And that's all good and that, but if you have too many weapons, it really kind of takes the fun out of the game, because it's 3 shots, the other guy's dead. Don't even get to drive more than a quarter circle. So it's a give and take there. On some of the older builds and that, when I really got into the big ones at the start there, I'd always like to have one monster in the game at somewhere, like usually my home base. Either it was in the works or it was usable, but most of the time I'd have it there, and then I'd just grab another guy and start building him, and off I drive, and I'd end up with usually a couple medium techs. By medium I mean just a hair smaller than this one, because this is a medium monster. This ain't really a full-blown holy crap breaking build limits monster, or touching build limits. But usually I'd end up with about 2 of those just out wandering around in my world, and I'd be in a 3rd tech that I had made while out and about and coming back to my big monster with whatever I could for money. So that was back when AI did even less than it does now, so it never really worked out as great as I had hoped, but what can you do? Kind of work with what you got, and whatever you do get is gravy. Here I'm getting a little picky with the pattern or design of it. I had a different idea for those being up like that, but I'm gonna go with aesthetics on this one. That's the downside for Geocore. They don't have a single like that would fill that crack. There's a definite need for a 1x2 or a 1x1x2 block for Geocore, or a 3x2, or no, what would that be? 3x2x2? That would even work. Honestly, both would be awesome. I think they could have room in their thing for it. So yeah, I've been constantly working on different things, trying to make all these videos in my YouTube channel and everything more pleasant to watch, and hopefully something everyone enjoys watching, not just watch it just to get a bit of helpful information and the rest is just garbage. So as I go, hopefully you guys will see that there is a steady improvement in the right direction from my content, until eventually I guess you can only do so much. Yeah, I really like those. They call them gradient white for the transition. I like that one. I think it's called nebulous. It's almost like a warp or something. But there's that flipping the tech trick. That's one of the handiest things I ever heard of, or I think it was kind of a 50-50 deal. I think I just kind of used it before I heard of it, like kind of the same day deal. Or maybe it was mentioned that it might be possible and I tried it. Can't remember exactly, but it was an awesome discovery the day I found that out. So many monsters became easier to build because of this. That kind of gives her a better footprint at the back, because most of the time the front I keep short and stubby and it goes up most things, but the backs I always find that the same pattern, like same angle and all that as the front, it looks kind of boring. So on this one I'm trying to change it up a bit, and yeah, I got a little carried away trying to replace wheels. Little metal grinder claw wheels, or I can't remember their exact name, the ones I'm adding right now, or trying to add, those are about my favorite, because the big ones may be a little faster, you don't need as many, but the little ones, they cover more ground, you don't get stuck as much, and they pretty much carry the same amount of weight. You put two of those wheels in the spot of one big wheel, I think they match up pretty nice, if not the smaller ones being better. I just wish the crusher wheel, the smaller version of that, was made the same way, or the suspension was done different on it, because it'd be a great wheel too, but it gets hung up on everything, the way the axle sags. The smaller one, not these ones. These ones are actually really good. I've never had them bottom out and get caught on something. I'll tell you, when actually watching this over again, when I'm not building, just watching the video and doing the voice here, talking to everybody, it's surprising how many blocks really went into this so far. And it's not really as, how would I put it, densely built as a lot of my other techs. So I'm kind of trying to keep it light and easy on the game, just so things don't lag out any worse or any sooner than they have to. Because this is more of a battle tech, not really meant to be a big mobile base or nothing. Like, all the stuff in there is basically just to power it and to sell. It's not necessarily to like make billions and billions of dollars. The selling feature is more just to clear the stuff out of the way so I can get the most charging I can. But it does still make money. It's not what I call a mobile base. Mobile bases tend to have fabricators and stuff, and this thing was never intended to, even if they were in the game still. Nope, I got my big rig that I'm going to be maybe working on. Well, it's going to have to be the distant future for now. I got a few other ones that have to get done first. And I need that crafting system back before I can really get serious about it. Or a crafting system back. Not the same old one if they don't want to use it, but I'm interested to see what is coming. So here, just lining up some resource catching in the middle so I don't miss anything. If I see a big path with a resource chunk laying behind me and right down the middle, a lot of the time it bothers me, and I'll try and back up and wiggle my way around till I pick them all up. Well, this way I'm hoping I don't have to do that. But with the removal of the big receiver, it gets trickier. It's not the easiest thing with those little ones. You got to get them close to the ground. That's maybe another thing I should suggest. Wow, that was tough to say for some reason. Is that the little receivers get a farther range. at least until we get a replacement for the big receivers. I think that forever, like permanently, would be a good idea. It doesn't have to be the same as the big receivers, but a little more would be nice. Because you're kind of limited to, I think, about 3 blocks up off the ground, and then they don't work as good. Might be 4 or 5 though. I don't know. It's been a while since I really tried to test their limits. I usually get them as low as I can without interfering with my driving, and usually that's like 1 block up, but right by the wheels kind of thing. So they're a very small target for things to get hung up on, and hopefully they don't take damage. And I'm just kind of getting some of my filters set up here, because I always like to have the, going through the warp again. I always like to have them set up so I get at least 2 of the oleus, 2 of the carbon or carbide chunk, and then the wood's not really so desirable, so sometimes I just switch it and I'll set them for either, usually the oleus, the red teardrop looking stuff. It's the best stuff I've found for charging in the game. Lasts the longest, produce the most. The only downside is I think all my stuff will be dragging on the ground in those silos, because they hold 10, and it kind of looks like I got maybe 7 blocks of space. But oh well, as long as they hold something, even 2, it'll be worth having. While building this tech though, it kind of inspired me to, maybe I should build like a core tech that I could use on making any tech. So like a central charging money making unit, and then you just build anything off of that. And I'd kind of started that idea, but on a lesser extent on previous techs, but I've never really gotten the system right, the way I want it. But this one, it gave me an idea of a few things I could do with the current system, and I don't know, I might give her a try and see if I can figure it out before any of the new changes come in. Just because if it's already changed over, I'm probably not going to play any old versions. Not that old anyway. So another good tip, wheels in the middle. Good idea. But as you can see, I got mine set up so they're not on the ground all the time. That also seems to be a good idea, because I find you get more of a tank-like steering, and there's no wheels in the middle dragging, slowing down your turn. Where if they are down, it turns, I think I guessed it at maybe a third slower than having them raised up off the ground. So I find it to be a pretty useful deal. It works for getting you up and over hills and stuff. If you're like kind of gonna hit the peak in the middle of your tech. But like always, there's billions of ways of doing stuff, and this is just the one that I picked to use on here. I know I've even done different ideas. There are very few rules of thumb I use in Terra tech. Other than that, it's all imagination and creativity, and just kind of working with what happens, going with the flow, if you will. I don't know, one rule of thumb is GSO shields. Don't put them more than 4 blocks away from each other. So like a shield, empty, 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 empty shield. If you do that, you should be guaranteed 100% coverage. Within reason, like as long as your tech ain't like 40 thick, you know what I mean? And I think they'll cover a thickness. So if you had like 5 or 6 layers of blocks at spaced 4 apart, I'm pretty sure you'd be covered with 2 blocks worth of distance between the edge of your shield to the blocks that I'm describing, if that makes sense. So you got a 2 block buffer zone from the edge of your shield to your blocks with that kind of a ratio. It might only be 3 in between the shields though. So I think what I was doing is go regen shield, space, 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 regen shield. Can't remember, it's been a while. On this one here I kinda just eyed it up, I didn't do a count. The count is a more effective way though, then you're guaranteed even coverage everywhere. Easier to figure out for your battery wise too. And that's another tip that I don't know how many people have took the time to really get in at it, but if you have 2 batteries, even the GSO ones, well those are the ones I'm talking about, for each bubble, and if you can charge them during the day full, you should be good all night unless you take a massive amount of damage from a really decent battle. No run-of-the-mill little guy should be able to take you out with that combination. So we're just trying to wrap up the back end here. Got a bunch of the guns put on it and see if we can close it in so there's no holes for easy shots. Which that's sometimes the hardest part, trying to fill in holes, especially when you get all like that, a whole bunch of one color. It'll get hard to see where there's an edge here and there, or a lit up attach point, just because the way things are all jumbled in together like that. So I'd like to take my time, look around, and see what attachment points they light up, and what I could possibly fit in where. And back to adding guns. These little lasers, they don't really have much for aiming. They aim a little bit in that. They're good if you got them closer to the ground, or if you're planning on using them against big tech. That works pretty nice. But they're the stronger of the 2 lasers that we got, and they work really good since they do attach to a flat face like that. I really like them for that reason. Give this sucker a flip back. It's starting to look not too shabby. A few more things here, and we'll just touch up maybe some fine details, see what I end up liking and not liking. Kind of getting the stair step idea to it. Now if I figured it out right, for this little episode of building a monster, I think I've got about 2.5 hours worth of building here, and I've crammed it down into just over 30 minutes, maybe 32 minutes, something like that. So yeah, she's been sped up quite a bit, as you can tell from that big blur there. So one thing I did want to ask is if you guys think maybe I've sped this up too much, things aren't really too easy to see, or you like them a little slower, or hey, if you would like them even faster. So I've been kind of wondering about that. I've been thinking these fast ones that I've been doing, I might wait until they're all done, and then I might edit them all together and super speed it, and just see how crazy it does look. If you can even see anything, I don't know. I'll find out then, I guess. But if you'd like to see stuff like that, leave comments on my YouTube channel, or find me on the forums at Terra forum. I'd be more than glad to do what I can. I'm always looking for new ideas, be it for a game, what I want to draw, create for my channel, anything. I love just creating stuff. So suggestions are welcome, ideas are great, and muchly appreciated. But I think we're kind of getting close to a good spot on this, where I might just do some final touches and then go out and do a bit of testing with it. As far as the testing goes, I might keep that kind of to me for now. I'll do a testing video of it at the end. If things don't work out very good, I'll let you know though. I got a feeling some of my drills are going to get me in trouble, but oh well. Well, I think this is about getting near the end. Till then,